Okay, looks like it's starting your life. Okay, hi Brian, how are you doing?
I am good, Louis-Philippe. How are you?
Good, good. Nice. First time we do this webinar together, right?
Indeed. We haven't had an opportunity to do one before, so I'm really looking forward to what we have here.
Same here, man. Same here. Hope it'll be a first edition, but a successful one. Um, so what time is it back at your place? Just curious.
11. Yep,
11 a.m. Okay. So
almost lunchtime.
here it's already 5 p.m. So let's wait a bit more time to make sure everyone is there. Then we can start. You can control the slides, right?
I can,
I can do that on your side. Perfect.
and you should be able to as well. So back and forth if you need to.
Oh, yes, I see that. I see that. Okay, great. Okay, let's start then. So hello everyone. I think you know us. My name is Louis-Philippe Broze. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Spentys. We also have Brian today. Maybe you want to introduce yourself.
Well, I am the VP of Business Development in the US, and I have been able to really see a lot of the growth with Spentys here in the North American market, and I'm super excited to contribute to this conversation here.
Thanks, Brian. So today's webinar, we're going to try to make it, it's kind of a dialogue. Myself and Brian try to have some kind of conversation back on the experience we've built with Spentys. I think it's been now more than 7 years. Spentys is on the OMP market. We've developed a lot of expertise, specifically around digitalization, right? And that's what we would like to discuss today. I would like to discuss today here some bottlenecks and some challenges we have been seeing as being recurrent, on the market for clinics and CFAB wanting to go digital. And we're going to tackle those bottlenecks, tackle those problems. But we're also going to look at how, from our side, after 7 years of experience, we have developed a methodology to try to actually improve and to bring clinics to a digital era. So that's a bit something also we're gonna discuss today in the webinar with some US experience with Brian, and then finally we're gonna also show you some results about how this methodology has enabled us to actually show some significant increase in patient satisfaction, but also in cost and time reduction. I think that's something we're gonna showcase today, those three aspects. So an introduction about the problems we have seen as recurrent in the industry, problems when you want to go digital. So that's one part. The second part is about looking at our methodology that Spentys has developed to try to identify those problems and to come up with solution. And then the third aspect is gonna be focusing on making sure that we can, as I said before, also show you some real case results. And before getting into that and giving the floor to Brian, I also want to introduce you once more Spentys. So Spentys, we've been on the market, as I said, for more than 7 years. Initially, we were producing 3D printed devices. So basically meaning that clinics and CFAB, I don't know if you remember, Brian, a couple of years ago when you arrived, people
Yeah.
would download, it's still the case, they can still do that, but basically they would use the Spentys products and use the Spentys software to order Spentys 3D printed orthoses, right? So that was a bit the baseline of what we were doing, offering a workflow to enable our customer to 3D scan, 3D model, and 3D print those devices. And that was based on the Spentys technology. So our 3D engine technology, our order management system, that's the two pieces of the technology we've developed. And now we've basically pivoted, I would say, around 18 months ago, where we enable to customize and to configure our 3D engine and our order management system to reflect the uniqueness of every clinic. So that's something that's very important, which we did 18 months ago, that we shifted from service provider to technological provider. So now we enable every one of our customers to basically take the Spentys building blocks, which is a 3D engine and the order management system, to configure it to their own medical expertise and also to integrate it in their own IT environment. So why do we do that? It's to make sure that every clinic can really reflect their own medical expertise and then their own uniqueness. Because as we know, every clinic is different. Every clinic has a different size too. Every clinic has a different kinds of network. And what we are trying to do with enabling our customer to white label, but also to configure our tool, is to make sure it can be really tailor made to their uniqueness. Do you
Yeah.
agree with that, Brian?
Yeah, I
Is
was going to
something
say,
that,
if I can add on top of that,
please, please.
I think that, when we were initially providing the Spentys workflow and the Spentys products, it worked really well for the partners that were able to fit the workflow into their existing processes. But what we learned was that this essentially what I call off the shelf solution, which was the same in the North American market as it was in Europe, didn't fit the custom needs of our customers. Everyone's environment is unique, as you say, and in clinical daily care, we see that off-the-shelf solutions may work for a broad sense, but when it gets to the details of how the outcome should be, it's better suited when we're able to tailor the technology to our partners. So it's been really nice to see how we've done that and move from just offering the Spenty solution throughout the world to now offering our partners solutions for them so that they could be able to plug in their products and fit the workflow into their day-to-day activities.
I agree with that. I think it's very difficult to enter into a world where one size fits all, right? So that's not possible, specifically in our industry where we are really driven to, by essence, making custom-made devices. So why not have a custom-made of a configurable software too, you know? I think that's also something that we thought on our basis. But I will give you the floor. Maybe I already been through the agenda, but if you want to reformulate it very quickly for the ones that have joined
Yeah.
us now.
Yeah. So a highlight of the conversation, and as LP mentioned, this is more of a conversation with you guys, between us. We hope that your key takeaways here is going to be recognizing and recognizing the bottlenecks that are within the O&P space throughout the world. So we'll start out by discussing those bottlenecks and then going into how Spentys approaches those bottlenecks for our partners through our digitalization workshops. We're going to go into detail and give you the under the hood look at what our partners are able to achieve through those workshops.
Mhm. And
And
if
then,
I
yeah,
Okay, I can add on that one, and I think
yeah,
what's going to be interesting there is we're going to show you our process, and for sure you can try to implement it yourself too, and that's also something interesting. It's not something you have to work with Spentis, but by the way, just something we've built, as I said before, after 7 years of experience, and Brian also has been now it's been 4 years you're there. So yeah, I just wanted to add that interesting process methodology that can be applied not only with Spentis but also by yourself, right?
excellent point. Please take everything that we share here and figure out how to leverage it, whether it be with us or on your own. But we'll try to do our best to show you the value at which we provide there, and then how others throughout the O&P industry globally have been able to leverage Spenty's expertise through this methodology, and we'll detail the deliverables that we provided them and give you finally a clear path to achieving digitization with Spentys if you so choose, or a path of your own that you could formulate from today's session. Be sure to use the chat feature, place your questions in the chat. I don't know, are you getting a notification if there's been any questions? I haven't seen any, but
I'm getting one. I'm getting some, so that's
okay,
okay.
okay,
I already have some questions here, so it's perfect.
good. Well, we'll reserve time at the end to go through
Yeah,
them. So jumping into, and I want to take a moment here to discuss how
sure.
these challenges have been found not just in the US, but also in Europe. I'm asked
Yeah.
all the time, what's the key differences between O&P clinics in Europe as well as in the US? And would you agree that based on your conversations with partners in Europe mainly, that you're seeing a lot of these same problems or challenges essentially
I
that we're facing here?
totally agree. It's just a couple of hours of difference, but the challenges are the same. You guys might, take another more American approach to problems, right? As Europeans, we do, we take our time and we like to take our time. But I think it's, yeah, for sure. The symptoms are the same, the our market, which is in the US or in Europe, is going through a lot of challenges, and they need to be addressed. I don't know, like for example, when we look at the reimbursement aspects, right? In some countries in Europe, and they haven't changed since 10 to 15 years, right? And
Yeah,
when you look at the inflation rates that we have experienced, those last 15 years, those last 10 years, even those last 5 years, it's like, it's crazy that we still have the same reimbursement rates, and the challenge on top of that is that Europe is even more fragmented than in the US, right? Where still you have the same system, even if the rates are different per state in the US, the system is kind of unified, but in Europe, it's
yeah,
even more complex when you look, for example, at the French system where you need to have a specific material if you want to be eligible to reimbursement. But all that to say, yes, we are facing the same challenges as you guys do. I think it's the same taste, maybe with other spices, right? But it's the same
yeah.
kind of taste.
Yeah, and like the best way to summarize it is actually the bottom one here where it says do more, do it faster, do it better, do it cheaper, and provide the highest quality that you can within the confines of those aspects. And
Indeed.
clinicians and technicians are facing these, and there are more and more patients that are coming into the need that practitioners provide and technicians complete. I mean, we're seeing, the rise of diabetes in the US, which is resulting in more amputations. We're seeing the rise in chronic disease globally, and what
Aging population,
it's
for example.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's tricky to hit that last note there and still provide the highest quality. So, you know, digging a little bit deeper, more on maybe the technical aspects of these challenges is for the practitioners and organizations that have implemented digital in the past, maybe now today we're finding that these systems are really fragmented. And by fragmented, I mean you have to, let's say, for the instance of a digital workflow, you have to scan in one software and
Mhm.
download it, and then clean it up in another software, download it again, import it into the order form. And by the time that you reach this ideal scenario of a digital workflow, you've got multiple different steps, which add complexity. And when dealing with those challenges on the previous slide, practitioners are still now having to address new ones, and
Mhm.
it's tricky in that regard.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have the feeling the environment has changed, and that's the problem, because the old recipes they were working, the traditional recipes they were working very very well. Patient satisfaction was there and everything was working well. But the problem is that the environment has changed, right? There's more and more pressure on our system, on our clinics, on our practitioners to follow up demand, as we said, to have the skills they need to follow up. And so if the environment has changed, you cannot keep on applying the same recipes, right? And I think that's what we're trying to do here with Spentys is give your recipes or your ingredients a bit of digital, right? A bit of a digital touch to answer those challenges. Um, And yeah, it's a difficult thing, and we've been experiencing it with Spentys because we can say whatever we want, but the ONP market is a traditional, right? The
Yes.
people like how things work. We are human beings. We are beast of habits, right? We like things
Yeah.
how they're done, and so change management and making sure to convince people to shift to digital, man, it's been difficult, right? It's been very
Yeah.
difficult. I have the feeling we are kind of preaching a new religion. It's like we are the Teslas of this world, right?
Yeah, I say we're having to change minds, hearts, and souls,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
it's very much so deeply ingrained into our culture, to
Mhm.
the O&P industry's culture, to stick with what we know and do what works. And going out on a limb sometimes is nerve-wracking.
It is totally, totally. But bottom line, what I want to say is like keep you cannot keep applying the same recipes if your environment has changed, right? That's something take away. And what else has changed is also that there is more and more nice digital technology that are out there, like 3D scanning, 3D printing, AI-driven technologies that are now available and that are just need to be utilized and implemented in a correct process to actually take advantage from it, right? And I think that's something that we as technological provider, we have to make it accessible to the OMP market, and it's also our responsibility to advocate for it, right? And that I think that you're doing more and more. But here, the idea of this slide to the message to our audience is also yes, the environment has changed, but also in a better way, meaning there are also technology which is available that you can action to make sure to answer the bottlenecks and the problems and the challenge we are currently facing. Uh,
And the
you know,
beautiful, well, I'll just piggyback on top of that. The beautiful aspect of the technology today is that it's gone through a generation of initial early adopters.
mhm,
3D printing, scanning, and modeling. This is not brand new to ONP. This has been here for at least 10 years now. So there's been a generation of feedback that
mhm,
has gone into a new generation of technology that is more user friendly, more streamlined, more now customized
mhm.
for Spentys in this new approach that we're taking. So there, you'll see that there is no better of a time, and it's exciting because it's more tailored to the O&P applications that practitioners are needing on a day-to-day basis than ever before.
I agree. Like, guys, we did all the mistakes for you. Don't worry about it. Like, we did them all, with Florian, with you. Like, we did some mistake and we still do, but less often, I would say. We've learned from them a lot. We're still there after 7, 8 years, which is amazing, right? And so, yeah, we've done all those mistakes. We've really played to the bottom with those tools and we have developed solution that really fits the OMP world. And so, yeah, I think next to that, what is very important is everything we've said is okay, there's all those challenges, there is all those opportunities. Uh, but next to that is how do you start, right? How do you get started? It's like, okay, I understand the train is leaving. Okay, I need to go digital, but where do I start? And I think there are different approaches, different angles you can go through. We're going to go through our methodology just after, but we believe first, before going through the methodology, we would like also to introduce to the fact of what we believe at Spentys. And what we believe at Spentys, is a unified digital workflow that improves efficiency. That's really what we believe in at Spentys. Is we would like to make sure that everyone, every clinician, if you are in a network of big clinics, has one login, one URL, can log in and access any kind of digital tools they want to make their life easier and to improve their patient's life. And I think that's a bit, the end vision where we want to take digital technologies, making sure everyone can utilize it in an easy way and bring very quickly value to their patients. I don't know if you want to add something on that, Brian.
Yeah, that's the vision. That's the end point, as you mentioned, and the mission on how we get there,
Mhm,
and the day-to-day work that we're doing with our partners today. detailed more in the methodology, but it's very much so with the value system at hand, and then peeling back the layers to getting there. So,
Hmm.
as you have listed here, the centralized approach where everything is streamlined together with APIs and just integrated connection points. That when we talk about the culture of change within O&P, and we look to why digital technologies maybe haven't been adopted at the speed at what we all thought they would be, and we see that the systems that were in place in that initial generation dealt with the fragmentation of their processes. You had to learn a new process in every single piece of technology. That's tricky for a practitioner who has minimal digital experience to integrate into their daily workflows. So what do? We look at that, we say, okay, we need to provide a streamlined, connected end-to-end workflow. And then, when it gets to 3D scanning and then 3D modeling and even 3D printing, understanding why people don't adopt goes into what actually Spentys develops, and it's all being built towards that end vision of a entire platform where practitioners can pick and choose which building blocks can be configured to their workflows and their
Hmm.
products. And it's really interesting how we've been able to develop based on what's working well, but also
Hmm.
what's not working well.
I agree. I agree,
Yeah.
and to jump on that, we'd like to a bit re summarize where we are now in the webinar. So first, we've discussed a bit of the challenges. We haven't read our slides. We suppose the audience has did. So we detailed the challenges of the industry, right? And then we said also, look, there are solutions there to answer those challenges. And then what we are saying now is you have to have a vision, right? Where do you want to take your clinic? Where do you want to take your CFAP in terms of digitalization? Okay, that's your shoot to the moon, right? Where do you want to take it? And now what you're gonna do is the methodology. Okay, how do you take step by step to get to this vision? And I think that's something that we have developed in terms of, and it's actually, it's not a secret recipe, it's not a patent or something that we patented, right? It's just common sense, but it's common sense that's been, I think, we validated, right? We validated it
Yeah.
now. It's been
Yeah.
18 months. We've done it for, I think, 12 companies now. We've been through the process every time of doing this discovery phase. But yeah, the idea now is to say, okay, problems, solutions, yes, vision, and then methodology. Okay, how do I go from the solutions that are there to my vision? And now I'm going to give you the word.
Yeah. Well, it's been, we've scraped our knees in the beginning with trying to implement this methodology, because it's, before any big transformation that happens, organizational transformation, if you do not have a plan, you are setting yourself up for headaches, delays, the project costing more than what was anticipated or just what was in your head. And so we knew that before we started customizing our technologies for our partners. And so that's when we started this discovery phase. And the knee scrapes were mainly around, you know, stakeholder alignment, which I think we'll cover a little bit more in detail here. So it's a key takeaway for you all to have. And based on our lessons learned, hopefully, if you don't jump into the Spentys discovery phase, you take this methodology, and we can help you develop it for yourself. But stakeholders, right in the beginning, right? When making digital transformation, it is incredibly important to have everyone rowing in the same direction. Everyone from the front office staff who checks in that patient to the technician that's finishing the device and putting on the chafe tabs and padding and shipping it out, or wherever it may be, and everyone in between. We've come to understand that when first having the idea of digital transformation, you need to have alignment on
Hmm.
the shared mutual goal. We
Hmm.
believe that we need to go digital. And once
Hmm.
the company is aligned on that goal, then you could begin to discover how you will get there. But alignment first on the mere fact that a solution needs to be implemented to address the challenges that we're having, then makes the rest of the process easier to achieve.
I
Because if you're
agree.
not aligned, you're in a tricky situation.
No, and that's what we have seen, is the problem is especially in mid-size and big-size corporation is that we see everyone doing their own thing in their own part of their room, right? Kind of, and working on their digitalization project or their digital standalone tool, and that's very nice. I think that's people can do that, but the problem is how do you make sure to assemble all those pieces and assemble all these talents, assemble all this energy into one common vision, and that's where we have seen that making sure to have maybe a third party uh, consultant kind of approach like we do with Spentys to align everyone and to have a neutral person that can align all this vision to sit around the table and make sure to understand, okay, where are we today? And then where are we want to go? I think that's very important. It needs to be done because otherwise, if you don't ask yourself those kind of questions, how do you want to take on any project to create real value behind it for your patients and the clinic? So that's the first step that we apply into the digitalization process, into our discovery phase, is alignment and making sure all the stakeholders can speak to each other and share what they see as is important for the digital future of the company.
Exactly. And once we have that clear indicator that we have people engaged in
Mm.
finding a solution for the future, then we deliver a series of workshops. And those workshops are where we will first open the floor so that we can have transparent communication where there's no threat of retribution if we can talk about our partners' workflows in some, more direct ways. Because we really need to understand as a team and as a group what is not working well and why it is not working well. What is the goal and the anticipated future, and how will we get there? So, without honest, clear communication as the foundation of these workshops, we have found that it's more difficult to really get to the heart of
Mhm.
the plan.
I agree.
Would you
It's
agree?
like
I mean, yeah,
no, I totally agree, and I think sometimes we maybe as a digital manager in a clinic, you're just like, okay, I just need this tool that will be able to do that, and then everything is gonna go digital, and I'm gonna win tremendous amount of time in my designing, but I just need this tool, and that's how it should be. Say yes, but okay, maybe yes, but what is important is make sure all your team looks in the same direction. And that's I think is the first thing that and the first prerequisite that needs to be understood and that needs to be answered, right? It's a change management story at the end of the day, digitalization, right? It's you're changing things, you're changing teams, and you have to start by making sure all your team is aligned. And I think that's a very important takeaway. It's not about the tool or the technology, it's also a human story, right? So align all stakeholders.
yeah. And then we get into the workshops themselves. After laying that foundation, we're going to completely map out the process of a
Mhm.
patient entering into the clinic to the time that the clinician is evaluating that patient and either casting or scanning, step by step, and creating that flow chart of how we do things today. And without detailing, specifically all the challenges that are involved in each and every single of those steps right then and there, because that comes later. You first have to create that flow chart of step by step by step what's happening, and that's a part of the current state analysis workshop that's delivered by Spentys, and that's where we discuss all the technologies that users within the organization are touching and at what
Mhm.
stage they're touching them, so that you have this process map from start to finish in your current state.
Yes, and I think just to add, sorry to interrupt, but what is important is again alignment, and by doing that and by giving the same patient journey workflow to every one of the stakeholders around the table, everyone again starts to be aligned and say, yes, that's how it happens. Okay. So you start from this again, from this base where everyone is aligned. So I think that's very important, that's why we do it, right?
Exactly. I
Mhm.
mean, if we have in the same room the
Mhm.
the managers and the executives of the organization as the folks, the CPOs and the technicians that are working the day-to-day process, it's likely that the upper level management may not know exactly what goes on day to day. So this builds credibility for the users to express this is exactly how we do it today. And then we go into um, what the potential optimized version could be. Because
Mhm.
you can then look apples to apples, right? This is how we do it, and this is how we want to do it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's really powerful when you have that story very clearly outlined and mapped out, for everyone to agree and align on current and then desired future digital workflow.
Indeed. And I think that where that's important, how do you achieve the future digital workflow or the design of it for your clinic or your CFAP or your company? It's again by making sure to gather all the inputs, by again having maybe a third party or someone which is neutral in the organization, that can align all those inputs, and then also that this person or the people that proceed with this analysis also have a profound understanding of the technologies out there, right? The capabilities that are available on the market, capabilities, the technological capabilities that can be basically used to improve the existing workflow. So I would say, again, first step, you analyze alignment. We all agree on how it is today. Then you have someone kind of neutral taking that, looking at all the problems that are in the current workflow, considering the inputs of all the stakeholders involved in the conversation, and consider also all the technology out there, all the technology that are out there, and combine all those three sources of information to come up with the future workflow, right? And the future digital workflow. So I think that's also something important. It's not only looking internally, it's also looking externally, right? And again, this third party aspect of having someone neutral that can again align, gather, but also analyze the market.
Totally. I mean, if you let's just take a pause right quick and consider an organization that doesn't take a methodical approach like this,
Mhm.
right? I mean, if you are one that maybe gets all of the information that you receive from maybe LinkedIn and YouTube, and that's the source of your information,
You
and
speak for
you have a
yourself.
yeah, I do actually. Not the sole source of my information, but gosh, I do learn a lot from my colleagues in my network throughout the world. But that can't be the only
Hmm.
driver of change is what everybody else is doing. You have to look at what you are doing and where these pieces of workflow make sense for you. So maybe you do see something on LinkedIn about a new 3D printed below knee prosthesis, and you're like, wow, okay, like I have a backlog of casts that I have to fill and create check sockets for or definitive sockets for, and I see this guy on LinkedIn who's doing it in
Hmm.
2 hours print time. How do I do that? And the organization that can fully scope that out compared to their current workflow is in better in a better position than the one that's just firing from the hip. I'm going to buy that printer because it looks cool
Yeah.
and it's promised to be 2 hour delivery time. Instead,
Mhm.
you can look to your current process and see where it fits in And
No,
that's been really powerful for our partners this far.
I agree. It's like one-offs are not gonna pay the bills, kind of, right? You cannot just like do a little thing, or it's for sure those micro aspects, those small aspects are very important. But again, the whole picture has to be considered from a macro perspective, right?
Yep.
Because otherwise those small things do not have any impact if you don't have the whole story, right? It needs to be part of a plan. It needs to be articulated in a plan, and I think that's very important. So let's go to the next step. So the step three is okay. You've aligned step one. You align everyone. You look at the current workflow. Then you decided of a future workflow based on your internal information, based on the information from the market, and based on your knowledge. And the step after is okay. What's the first step? Okay, what's my first step where I'm going to be able to demonstrate my vision, right? What's my quick wins? Where are my quick wins? Where can I deploy something that can demonstrate the value of my vision, right? Where can I quickly, in a couple of months, deploy a solution that supports my vision, my digitalization vision, but that also brings value for my clinic, my CFAP, my company, meaning increased patient satisfaction, for example, meaning reducing labor time, meaning reducing cost, meaning increasing delivery time, durability of the device, whatever. But where are my quick wins? And I think that's also something important is you have this future vision of future workflow, but how can I straight away try to demonstrate that with quick wins?
Yeah, and measuring the success of those outcomes that you were just referring to, like
Mm,
increased efficiency and better patient outcomes, through KPIs of a pilot phase. You have to have KPIs, key performance indicators,
mm,
because without, I mean, you have this goal, um, reduce lead time for delivery of products, but how do you measure if you were successful at doing that? Outside of, okay, we were able to ship this one socket 2 days before than we used to in the past. But making sure that there are KPIs and goal-based measures involved in that pilot phase will go a long way, because you'll need to reflect back on that pilot phase or that test phase to determine if it was successful in regard to meeting your goals.
indeed, indeed,
Without KPIs, you're shooting in the dark again.
yeah, indeed, and you're not going to be able to make some decisions, right? So you need
Yeah.
those information. Um, and yeah, so that's after the pilot case, after those quick wins, for sure, step by step, you're getting there, and you basically have to analyze the whole future workflow, and chug it down to some actionable phases, right? And I think that's something again where Spentys can help take you by the hand for each one of those steps. Also advise you in which kind of technology can be used in those different phases. But to sum it up, I would say, yeah, and as we said, again, what is
This is a
important,
powerful one. Yeah.
that's very important
Yeah.
indeed, is after having done all those things, as you said, how can you monitor that? And one important aspect of it is, okay, what is my return on investment? Do you want to give it a take on that or share your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll just quickly share my thoughts because it's the most successful organizations I've seen implement digital technology had a plan to return the time investment, the monetary investment, and to have that returned back to them. Because
Mhm.
in order to optimize the process for patient care, it's not just a feel good type of thing. We are ultimately commercial organizations, and if an investment is made, it needs to come back. And I'll let you expand further, but once we started focusing on the return on investment in the discovery phase methodology, we saw stronger cases of success because it was thought of in the beginning, the dollar spend and how quickly it comes back to us.
Indeed, indeed, I agree because um, again, we are not used to it in our industry yet. We are used to, I think, optimizations. We are used
Yeah.
to optimizing little things and maybe optimizing production, making sure that production is more divided to be more efficient. I think we've done a lot of things in our industry to again meet the bottlenecks, the cost and the pressure on the cost and all those things. We've optimized a lot of the traditional processes, but then again, how do we convince them to shift to our new process? Return on investment has been very important and something we didn't do specifically. But since it's new, since digitalization is new in this industry, we had to go through that, right? We had to show 1 + 1 does 2, and it makes sense for you to make this investment, right? And I think that we've been working a lot on, and I would say lastly on the latest project we've worked on, we have turning around the return on investment between 10 to 18 months max, where our customers after max 18 months have had their initial investment with the license back and started to have a very exponential growth in terms of gain in time or gain monetary gain, as you said.
Yeah.
And that's where when you put that on an Excel file, when you put that on a graph, that's where you really realize, you say, okay, actually, digitalization makes sense. It's not only a nice to have story to publish some nice video on LinkedIn or on my website. It actually makes sense on my balance sheet, right? It actually makes sense from a monetary perspective. So that's something I think which is very interesting in this methodology is look at how we can help your customer and your partner or your organization gain value and try to make sure you can compute that. I think that's something which is very important.
Yeah, indeed. Now, all of the methodology there is summarized into a report, generally 10 to 20 page report that all the stakeholders essentially sign off on that were involved in it. Everyone from that receptionist to the upper level management that
Mhm.
that contributed to the discovery phase can be able to say, you know what, this is a plan that I believe in, and we
Mhm.
align everyone to get to that report. And from there, we're happy to share some examples of organizations and partners that have been able to implement this discovery process and go granular
Mhm.
detail step by step. Um, and from
Yes.
here, yeah, this one looks like this was something you added here. You want to take over?
Yes. Sorry. I added some slides last minute. Before I took you off guard there, Brian. Sorry for that. But before getting to the results of the discovery phase, I want also to highlight also the added value of digitalization. And I just wanted to take this example of a scientific study we did with a partner in the Netherlands, right? Where we've seen indeed that that's just to show people, okay, some real data on digitalization. Digitalization works. Here, the methodology that we've used before hasn't really been used. We've just used the Spentys technology with 3D printing, HP 3D printed devices. But what we've seen is that digital technology has enabled, to reduce the cost over 50%, to reduce the amount of patient visits, and next to that also that we've been able to achieve the same functions in terms of for the patient, to achieve the same functions with the device, but they still preferred the digital products. So just an introduction to results. I just thought,
Yeah.
we've invested so much time in this study. I'm so proud of this study that I wanted to share again the results. But next
Yeah,
to that,
this one, where could we find? Should we send an email after the webinar that has a link
yes,
to this study? That would be great.
yes, it's
Yeah.
publicly available, so we can for sure share that. And it's also a nice, I think, Journal of Rehabilitation Medicine is kind of a famous thing, so that's also a good thing for Spentys to show, right? But yes, so yeah, it's just an introduction to the results. And now, for example, what we've seen also in terms of results, other KPIs, because we were speaking about KPIs, just before, is that, for example, the solutions by the configuration of our software and by also going through this methodology, we've been able, for example, to increase the output of some mold cast technicians by from 16 to 36 molds per day. So which makes a big difference, right? It means that going more than twice faster. If you, I mean. 16 by 2 is 32, and here it's 36, so it's more than twice. Just checking my
Yeah.
maths there, sorry. It's 5 p.m. here.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Maybe it's time for some tea or coffee again,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, indeed. And also next to that, I think another KPI which been very interesting and linked to the fact that it's very difficult to have qualified labor is the reducing the amount the learning curve, from 6 to 1 month. And so all these things is something, those are some examples in terms of what kind of KPIs can I look at when I'm in this process, what kind of KPIs can I try to reach to improve my processes. But now I'm going to give you the floor for the real example.
Yeah, well, this was one that I'm super excited about this upcoming week. Actually, this week is AAOP, and Point Designs will be releasing their revised and new software from Spentys that enables practitioners who leverage Point Design's innovative partial hand prostheses to order the prosthesis with more efficiency, more visualization, so that they can be able to access Point Design's library easier. So this one was really exciting, and if you're going to be going to AAOP, um, happy to share that with you. And
So if I can
yeah,
just jump in. So what we've done here is we've taken Spenty's order management system and we've configured it and white label it to Point Design, right? Enable them to basically reduce the ordering time by 2. I think that's a bit why we halve the ordering time for all of their customer, making sure their customer can order faster without mistakes, more consistently, and also in a more user-friendly way, right?
yeah, certainly. And it also touched on that fragmented process, where there's multiple
Yeah.
different ways of doing something. We streamlined and brought it into one.
Because all their
And
clinicians were doing it in a different way, right? Again, and so
yeah,
all the ways were working, but how do you scale, right? How do you scale that? And that's where I think we helped a lot.
indeed. One of the other great cases we've had was with a hospital here in the United States, Mayo Clinic, who is leveraging digital technology to improve patient outcomes and to be more efficient in their occupational therapy team in Rochester. And they're using 3D scanning, 3D modeling, and 3D printing for the creation of custom-made orthoses. And there they were using the Spentys workflow and said, gosh, guys, we would just like to have more of our orthoses, the things that we're fitting on a day-to-day basis traditionally. And how can we get these devices into a digital workflow? And they were able to leverage our expertise in automation and creation of their traditional devices into a digital infrastructure and using our Forma 3D engine. So it's really cool to see some of the unique designs that they've made, and then designs that are tried and true, tested, now being made with digital technology such as 3D printing.
Yes, and that's interesting because just to add on that, Mayo used to use our solution with our products, and they told us like, look, it's very nice product, very like nice workflow, but I would like to create my own products and I would like to have my own workflow, right? And so, that's how, based on the market feedback, we adapted and we made sure to create their own workflow representing their own unique medical expertise, right?
Yeah, and here we're looking at an example of upper extremity, but we have also examples of lower extremity, AFOs, SMOs, and even prosthetic sockets, transradial prosthetic sockets, now that I've gone through this process. And what we're just another key takeaway that we're finding is that when CPOs and occupational therapists and end users of the technology see that the product is designed and developed by the organization at which they work for, it's easier to adopt than if it was an outside third party CFAB, essentially. So that's one thing that we're being able to measure now, and the speed of adoption once the logos are there, once the product design is influenced by our partner. And that's one thing here that we've done with Tilgis in regard to creating the digital limb creator, where you input measurements into a tool and output a
Mhm.
uh, a foot, so that you could be able to lean less on third-party manufacturers that do things the traditional way, and more on creating molds internally and modeling devices on top of that foot, and then going to print. So another piece of customization that we've been able to deliver here in the world.
So a lot of information, right? I think it's a lot of information. We've been speaking a lot. I hope it was interesting. I have the feeling it was interesting, but we'll let our audience judge for that. But basically, let's sum up again. It's okay. We have all those problems. The train is leaving. I have to start implementing digital tools, right? I cannot keep on applying the same recipe because the environment has changed. So I cannot keep on applying the same recipe. Where do I start? Because there are solutions out there, but there are so many things. But where do I start? I think you can start. We believe you can start for sure with Spentys. That would be better, but you can start by looking and aligning the different stakeholders, making sure you all align on how things are done today, making sure to define this ideal workflow, and then identify between this ideal workflow and where you are today, the first step into okay, what are the quick wins? What is the pilot case where I can quickly start demonstrating value? And then based on that, define different phases. And that's what we've been doing also with Spentys technology. And that's why I think where we've been able to have a lot of different results. But yes, if you have any questions, or maybe Brian, you want to add something before question? I'm sorry.
Well, I'll just add one final thought here, and create a plan and stick to it. Be flexible, allow for, unforeseen changes to occur, but stick to a plan. And if the result of your discovery phase, whether it be with Spentys or internally, is that you go out on a pilot testing of 3D printing technology or a new scanner, set out the time frame, define your KPIs, and get to the end of that phase, that pilot phase, so that you can begin to uh, stand upon results. There's the analysis paralysis is really tricky within organizations, where you just think about it, think about it, think about it, and you don't actually go. And making sure that you get started and then stick to it is one of those things that will help you in 2026 look back to what you did the previous year and be proud of the changes you made in your organization.
Thanks,
I think that
Brian.
that's quite important. Yeah.
Thanks. I think now that's a good way to summarize it. We have like 5 minutes left. I've got some
Okay.
questions here. First question that was asked was like you saying that basically I'm reinterpreting the question, but basically how is our technology customizable? Sorry. How what does that mean customizable and how do we do that?
Well, I think it would be important to first look to what Spentys does today, our 3D engine and our order management system. And then looking at those two different technologies, peeling back how we customize them really depends on the type of product. So we'll first define the end device, whether it's a prosthesis or an orthosis. And then we will look to your current workflow and your ideal future state workflow and build a process around it using Spentys existing technologies. So maybe it's our Autoforma 3D engine for the automatic creation of an orthosis. We'll use the infrastructure there to apply to your product and then build the workflow around it. Does that make sense, LP? Is that how we're doing it, or did I just go too technical and went
No, no,
to much
no.
of a left turn?
I think we have all those different building blocks, and it can be, for example, scan correction. It can be like, as you say, trimline generation. As you say, it can be, there's all those different building blocks, and it's like Lego blocks, right? And so we just assemble them in a different way, depending on how the customer wants it, and depending on what kind of features the customer wants. And so yeah, that's how we do it. We basically have those little Lego blocks we play with, right? Making sure to answer it. And depending on that, we assemble them in different way. I think also what is important to say is that there is a spectrum, in terms of digital technology where you can go fully automated versus
Yes,
one-offs and give
semi-automated, I would say.
yeah, some automated and then give full control to the technician or the clinician. And that's also something you can, with the Spentys tool, we can also adapt. We can give a lot of control to the technician and make sure they can modify everything, for example, or provide all the data, or we can make sure it's a consistent process and you just give some basic parameters and then it's always the same consistent result. For sure, it's custom made, right? It's always adapted to patient anatomy and all these things, but it's still more consistent and automated. And I think that's also you have basically what I want to say is you have we can assemble those Lego blocks in different ways, but also inside of the Lego blocks there is a spectrum. That's what I mean. There is
Mhm.
full control or full automation. And that's also something that depending on the philosophy, the culture of the clinic, of the company, it can change.
I think that that should be the title of our next discussion: full control or full automation.
That's a
Because
that's a good
there's a
one.
big spectrum, and it would be interesting to get some perspective on what that spectrum is and what we're seeing.
Man, you don't get me started. Like there are trade-offs, there are so many things. But okay, we'll discuss it next time. A good idea. Um, last question. I have a question about adoption here.
Mhm.
In our opinion, what are the biggest barriers to digital adoption in clinics, for example? What do you think? What
Yeah.
for you, based on your journey as now VP business developer of Spentys for 5 years, and actually you were in the industry before, what is for you? We have 2 minutes left. What is for you the biggest barrier to digital adoption of digital technology across the OMP sector?
This one is so it should just be on the tip of my tongue, but
There are so
um,
many answers, potential,
it,
potentially there are so
it,
many answers, right?
yeah, I think I'm gonna go with it depends. That's the
Okay.
biggest. I'm setting you up for the
You
more
you
technical,
start.
philosophical one, but it depends on what's the biggest
You,
barrier to
Man, you
adoption.
start speaking like a politician right here. Like, but yeah, it depends indeed. I agree with you. I think it depends on the ecosystem. But I would say for me, the biggest aspect, which is centralizing all the frustration or all the complexity of a transition, is the human factor. I think and it's too often underestimated. And I would say to minimize this complexity of this human factor, communication is key. Proactive communication to all stakeholders involved in the digital change. Proactive communication to also proactive training, sorry, to all the stakeholders that are involved. So communication, training, reassuring the people involved in this process, um, making sure to change their perspective on positive aspects in the digital change. So it's basically making sure you're selling your digital vision across your organization to actually make sure to decrease the resistance to change when you start implementing the new tools and make sure that all the investment in time, in money you've done in these digital tools can actually bring results, right? So I think that's an important one.
Those are good thoughts. Um, and I'm glad you could deliver that to the audience, other than what's the biggest. It depends. So
No, but I think
I
you're right? But maybe we can give it a try and also discuss that in the next webinar. But I think it's time. Guys, thank you very much for your question, for your attention. I hope it was insightful. and we'll for sure do that again. Maybe as you said, what do you think should be the next topic, Brian?
Full automation or full control.
Yeah, good one, good one.
I think
So
that
that's
that's going to that'll bring out some of the really deep philosophical thinkers in the digital workflow today, because there's this big disparaging range where we're seeing literally just like drag and drop 15 files and then export modified modeled devices within seconds to really wanting to have that touch and that personalized approach. And what's the best way to go about it? Who's right, who's wrong? I think we should have that conversation, and maybe it's not right and wrong, but
mhm,
what's the pros and cons of each?
sure, that's a good one. Brian, thank you very much, and we'll see each other next time.
Thank you, Louis Philippe, and thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And if we can do anything for you, help guide you and start the discovery phase with Spentys or for yourself internally with your team, we're happy to help and really, really hope to see you soon in the hallways of some of these events that we have coming up in 2025.
Cheers.